Rise, my apprentice.
Ahsoka Tano, once the dedicated and skilled Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, finds herself disillusioned with the Jedi Order after being wrongfully accused of a bombing at the Jedi Temple. Despite her innocence being proven, the experience has left deep scars. The betrayal, the lack of trust from those she considered family, and the Jedi Council's willingness to cast her aside so easily weigh heavily on her. Walking away from the Order, Ahsoka begins to wander the galaxy, searching for a purpose and grappling with the overwhelming sense of abandonment and betrayal. She feels lost, questioning everything she once believed in. The galaxy is in turmoil, with the Clone Wars raging on, and Ahsoka feels the pain and suffering of the people caught in the crossfire. After leaving the Jedi Order, Ahsoka embarks on a journey of self-discovery, wandering from planet to planet. She helps those in need, using her skills and abilities to protect the innocent, but she still feels a void, a lack of purpose that weighs on her soul. The Order had given her life meaning, but now, without that structure, Ahsoka is left questioning what is truly good and what her role in the galaxy should be. As she navigates through the war-torn galaxy, Ahsoka encounters various people who have differing views on what it means to be good. She meets rebels who fight for freedom, but with methods she finds questionable. She encounters former Jedi who have renounced their vows, living by their own moral codes. She even crosses paths with mercenaries who, despite their ruthlessness, have their own twisted sense of honor. Each encounter challenges Ahsoka's beliefs and forces her to confront the idea that morality might be more fluid than she once thought. One particular encounter shakes her to her core. Ahsoka meets an old sage, a former Jedi who abandoned the Order long ago. This sage lives in a secluded part of a remote world, far from the chaos of the galaxy. The sage speaks to Ahsoka about the nature of the Force, the duality of light and dark, and the concept that good and evil are often matters of perspective. The sage suggests that the Jedi's rigid views on morality and the Force are flawed, and that true balance comes from understanding and embracing all aspects of the Force, light and dark. This conversation plants a seed of doubt in Ahsoka's mind. She begins to question whether the strict adherence to the light side of the Force truly serves the greater good, or if it's merely a limited perspective. As Ahsoka continues her journey, she begins to see the broader impact of the war on the galaxy. Traveling through war-torn cities, devastated worlds, and refugee camps, she witnesses the immense suffering inflicted upon ordinary citizens, suffering that seems to grow with every battle fought in the name of the Republic and the Jedi Order. These experiences deepen her disillusionment with the Jedi and their role in the ongoing conflict. The Jedi, once seen as noble protectors of peace, are now viewed with suspicion and resentment by many in the galaxy. Ahsoka overhears conversations in shadowy cantinas and crowded marketplaces, where citizens speak of the Jedi as warmongers, puppets of the corrupt Republic, and enforcers of a failing system. The people do not see the Jedi as heroes, but as part of the problem, their once bright image tarnished by the endless cycle of war and destruction. These harsh realities force Ahsoka to confront the flaws within the Jedi Order that she had previously overlooked or rationalized. The Order's rigid adherence to doctrine, its detachment from the people it was meant to serve, and its willingness to be drawn into the political machinations of the Republic now seem like grave mistakes. Ahsoka reflects on her own experiences within the Order, the lack of trust, the abandonment, and the trial that led her to leave. The Jedi, for all their wisdom, seem blind to the suffering they contribute to, caught up in a conflict that strays further from their original purpose. Ahsoka's heart aches with the realization that the war, far from being a just cause, is a tragedy perpetuated by both sides. The once clear line between good and evil blurs as she sees the suffering of innocence, the destruction of homes, and the loss of countless lives, all in the name of a greater good that feels increasingly hollow. In her growing frustration and anger, Ahsoka begins to question whether the Jedi's refusal to engage with the darker aspects of the Force has led to their downfall. Their dogmatic rejection of the dark side may have left them unbalanced, unable to see the full spectrum of the Force, and thus unable to make the right choices to end the war. Ahsoka wonders if perhaps the key to ending the war and bringing true peace to the galaxy lies in embracing a more complete understanding of the Force, one that includes the dark side. However, these thoughts are unsettling, and Ahsoka hesitates. She is torn between the teachings of the Jedi, which still hold a place in her heart, and the growing conviction that they are fundamentally flawed. Palpatine, ever the cunning strategist, had sensed the darkness beginning to stir within Ahsoka Tano. The echoes of her pain, anger, and disillusionment with the Jedi reverberated through the Force, calling out to him like a beacon. Recognizing an opportunity, Palpatine devised a plan, a bold and dangerous move to turn Ahsoka to the dark side, and through her, possibly bring Anakin Skywalker closer to the path he had carefully laid out. Ahsoka, now wandering the galaxy, was tracked down by agents of Palpatine under the guise of concerned citizens seeking her help. They lured her into a trap, and she was soon captured and brought before the Chancellor himself. Confused and wary, Ahsoka found herself in a darkened chamber within the Senate building. Far from prying eyes, it was here that Palpatine would make his move. As Ahsoka stood before him, the air thick with tension, Palpatine began their conversation with a calculated subtlety. He spoke of the Republic and the Jedi, questioning whether they were truly the paragons of virtue they claimed to be. His tone was measured, almost paternal, as he probed Ahsoka's mindset, subtly aligning his words with the doubts she already harbored.
The Jedi and the Republic, are they truly fighting for what is right? Or have they become the very corruption they once sought to eradicate?
Ahsoka, already questioning her former beliefs, listened intently. She had seen firsthand the corruption of the Republic and the flaws of the Jedi. Palpatine's words resonated with her growing doubts, and she found herself questioning whether she had been blind to the truth all along. Seeing her hesitation, Palpatine pressed on, weaving his narrative carefully. He spoke of his own observations over the years, how he had seen the Republic rot from within, with the Jedi serving as its blind enforcers. He painted a picture of a galaxy in need of true justice and order, something that only he could bring about. Then, with a calculated pause, Palpatine revealed the truth.
I am the Sith Lord the Jedi have been searching for,
he said, his voice low and steady, watching Ahsoka closely for her reaction. Ahsoka's eyes widened in shock, and without hesitation she ignited her lightsabers, ready to strike. But Palpatine remained calm, unfazed by the threat. He continued speaking, not as an enemy, but as someone who saw himself as the true savior of the galaxy.
I do not seek power for power's sake, Ahsoka. I have orchestrated all of this, the war, the conflict, to expose the corruption that has plagued the Republic for too long. Only by revealing the truth can the galaxy unite behind me to bring about the change we so desperately need.
Ahsoka hesitated, her saber still glowing but her resolve wavering. Palpatine's words were insidious, planting seeds of doubt and curiosity in her mind. He presented himself not as the villain the Jedi had portrayed, but as a misunderstood hero, someone who had taken drastic measures to do what was necessary.
You've seen it yourself, haven't you? The Jedi, the Republic, they are broken. They have failed the galaxy, but together we can fix it. We can bring peace, order, and justice.
Ahsoka's mind raced, torn between the instincts ingrained in her by the Jedi and the compelling logic of Palpatine's argument. Could it be possible that the Sith Lord was right, that the Jedi and the Republic were the true enemies of peace? The darkness within her, the doubts and anger began to swell, making her question everything she had ever known. Palpatine, sensing Ahsoka's inner turmoil, pressed his advantage. His tone remained calm, almost compassionate as he continued to speak, wrapping his dark words around her like a shroud.
The Jedi and the Republic, as they are now, will only continue to destroy the galaxy. Their time has passed. They are relics of a flawed system, unable to see the truth, blinded by their dogma and arrogance. But you, Ahsoka, you are different. You have seen their failings. You know that something must change.
He took a step closer, his voice dropping to a near whisper, drawing her in.
You have a choice. You can turn me in now. Expose me as the Sith Lord the Jedi have been hunting. But know this. If you do, the Republic will seize control, and the Jedi will continue to enforce their broken, corrupt system. The galaxy will be plunged further into chaos, and nothing will change. Or
he paused, letting the weight of his words sink in.
Or you can join me. Together we can bring the galaxy the peace and order it so desperately needs. You can help me create a new era, one where the mistakes of the past are corrected, where true justice prevails. The choice is yours, Ahsoka, but know that once you make it, there is no turning back.
Ahsoka stood frozen, her lightsaber still humming with energy in her hands. She wanted to believe that Palpatine was lying, that this was some elaborate trick, but everything he said resonated with the doubts that had been festering within her. The Republic was corrupt, the Jedi were flawed, and Palpatine, as much as she wanted to deny it, there was a twisted logic in his words. Her heart pounded in her chest, a battle raging within her. She knew what she had been taught, what the Jedi had ingrained in her since she was a child. Her instincts screamed at her that this was wrong, that she should cut Palpatine down where he stood, but those instincts were the product of her training, the very training she had come to question. Slowly, deliberately, Ahsoka deactivated her lightsabers. The room fell into an eerie silence as the blades retracted, leaving only the soft breathing of the two figures standing face to face. She wanted to deny the truth in Palpatine's words, to cling to the teachings that had shaped her, but the doubts in her heart had grown too strong. Everything she had witnessed, the corruption, the war, the suffering, had shown her that the galaxy was broken, and now, here was someone offering her the power to fix it.
I'll join you,
Ahsoka said, her voice quiet but firm. The words felt foreign, heavy on her tongue, but they were out now, and she knew there was no going back.
I'll help you bring peace and order to the galaxy.
You've made the right choice, my dear. Together, we will accomplish great things. The galaxy will thank you for your wisdom in time.
Ahsoka tried to ignore the sinking feeling in her stomach, the voice in the back of her mind telling her that this was a terrible mistake. She shut it down, convincing herself that this was not the old Ahsoka speaking, but a new Ahsoka, one free from the constraints of the Jedi, free to make her own decisions. With her decision made, Ahsoka found herself under the direct tutelage of Palpatine, the very man she had once seen as the galaxy's most powerful protector. Now, he revealed to her the secrets of the dark side, offering her knowledge that the Jedi had forbidden, knowledge that promised the power to bring real change to the galaxy. Ahsoka began her training with a clear purpose, to use the dark side not for selfish gain, but to right the wrong she had witnessed, to restore balance in a way the Jedi could not. She believed that by understanding and harnessing the dark side, she could wield it as a tool to accomplish what the light side had failed to achieve. She told herself that her intentions were pure, that she would remain in control. Palpatine guided her through the ancient Sith teachings, revealing the full spectrum of emotions that the dark side fed upon: anger, fear, and hatred. He showed her how to tap into these emotions to amplify her power, to bend the Force to her will. Ahsoka, driven by her desire to fix the broken galaxy, threw herself into the training, believing that she could walk this path without being consumed by it. But as the days turned into weeks, Ahsoka began to change. The dark side, seductive and insidious, slowly started to seep into her very being. At first, it was subtle, an increased impatience, a sharper edge to her thoughts. She found herself justifying actions that she would have once condemned, telling herself that the ends justified the means. After all, she was doing this for the greater good. Palpatine encouraged these changes, subtly pushing her further down the dark path. He praised her progress, lauding her growing strength and control. But what Ahsoka did not realize was that this control was an illusion. The more she used the dark side, the more it began to control her. The Force, once a comforting presence in her life, became something darker, more volatile. It whispered to her, urging her to give in to her anger, to embrace her hatred. The power was intoxicating, and Ahsoka found herself drawing on it more and more, each time with a little less hesitation. She still believed she was doing the right thing. Her intentions had not changed. She still wanted to bring peace and order to the galaxy, but the dark side was warping those intentions, twisting them into something unrecognizable. The compassion and empathy that had once defined her were being overshadowed by a growing ruthlessness. She began to see those who opposed her as obstacles to be removed rather than people to be reasoned with. Ahsoka's training sessions grew more intense, her emotions more volatile. She began to experience moments of rage, uncontrollable and fierce, leaving destruction in her wake. Each time, Palpatine would reassure her, telling her that this was the path to true power, that she was becoming stronger, more capable of enacting the change she desired. As Ahsoka's power in the dark side grew, so did her conviction that the galaxy needed a complete overhaul, something the Jedi could never accomplish. The more she delved into her new path, the more she became convinced that Anakin, her former master and the one person she had always trusted, should join her. She believed that together, they could bring about the change the galaxy desperately needed. Ahsoka sought out Anakin, finding him in a secluded cave on a distant planet, a place where he had come to meditate and reflect. The setting was symbolic, the cave, a place of darkness, much like the path she had now chosen. When Anakin saw Ahsoka, he was both relieved and concerned, sensing the change in her immediately. The light in her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a cold intensity.
Ahsoka,
Anakin began, his voice filled with a mix of warmth and caution.
I've been looking for you. I was worried.
Anakin, you don't have to worry anymore. I found the truth. The Jedi, the Republic, they're all corrupt. They can't be saved. But we can. Together, we can bring peace and justice to the galaxy. We don't need the Jedi's rules. We can make our own.
Ahsoka, listen to yourself. This isn't you. The dark side. It's twisting your thoughts. Come back with me. We can fix this together, but you have to let go of this anger.
No, Anakin. You're the one who doesn't see it. The Jedi are blind. They've betrayed everything we stand for, and you're still defending them? I thought you'd understand, but you're just like the rest of them.
Ahsoka, I do understand. I know how you feel, how much you've been hurt. But the dark side isn't the answer. It's only going to lead to more pain. Please, come back to the light. We can find another way.
But Anakin's words only fueled Ahsoka's anger. The one person she had trusted, the one person she thought would stand by her, was now turning his back on her, choosing the Jedi who had betrayed her over her. The sense of betrayal cut deep, and the dark side, ever present, fed on that pain, amplifying her rage.
You're just like them. I thought you were different, but you're not. You're weak, just like the rest of the Jedi. If you won't join me, then you're my enemy.
With a sudden surge of dark energy, Ahsoka's force powers exploded outward, amplified by her fury. The rocky ceiling of the cave trembled and then began to collapse as she used the force to bring it down upon Anakin. Rocks and debris rained down, and Anakin, reacting instinctively, threw up a force barrier to shield himself from the deadly onslaught. The cave shook violently as the rocks piled up around Anakin, trapping him in a tomb of stone. He could feel Ahsoka's presence, her anger like a fire burning in the Force, but as he struggled to free himself, that presence began to fade. With a final push of the Force, Anakin blasted the rocks away, freeing himself from the debris. But when he looked around, Ahsoka was gone. The cave was empty, save for the scattered remains of the collapse. Anakin's heart sank as he realized that she had chosen her path, a path that had taken her further into the darkness, away from the light that had once guided her. Standing alone in the silent cave, Anakin felt a deep sadness settle over him. He had failed to bring her back, and now she was lost, consumed by the very darkness she had once fought against. With Ahsoka now firmly on the path of the dark side, Palpatine knew it was time to set the next phase of his plan into motion. He needed to widen the rift between Anakin Skywalker and the Jedi Council, pushing Anakin closer to the dark side himself. To do this, Palpatine subtly leaked information to the Jedi that Ahsoka had been seen working with the Separatists, aiding their efforts against the Republic. The Jedi Council, already on edge with the ongoing war and the increasing reports of Jedi being turned or killed, received the news with grave concern. The idea that Ahsoka Tano, once a trusted Padawan and ally, could now be aligned with the enemy sent shockwaves through the Order. They knew that if Ahsoka had truly turned, she would be a formidable threat. Not only was she highly skilled and resourceful, but her knowledge of the Jedi and her connections within the Republic could be exploited to devastating effect. The Council convened in a somber meeting where the issue of Ahsoka's potential alliance with the Separatists was discussed at length. Yoda, Mace Windu, and the other members expressed their fears about what this could mean for the Republic and the Jedi Order. If Ahsoka had indeed turned against them, the repercussions could be dire. The conversation inevitably turned to the need to stop her, should the reports prove true. But when Anakin learned of the Council's concerns, he was livid. He burst into the Council chamber, his face a mask of anger and determination.
Ahsoka would never join the Separatists. She's not a traitor, and nothing you say will make me believe otherwise. I know her better than anyone, and I know she's good.
The council members exchanged uneasy glances. Anakin's attachment to Ahsoka was well known, but the situation was too critical to let emotions cloud their judgment. Mace Windu spoke, his tone measured but serious.
Anakin, we understand your loyalty to Ahsoka, but the evidence we've received cannot be ignored. If she has truly turned, she could pose a great danger to the Republic. We cannot take that risk.
You're the ones who put her in this position. You abandoned her when she needed you the most. You let her down, and now you want to condemn her based on rumors? This is your fault, not hers.
Difficult the situation is, but dangerous Ahsoka has become. A threat to the Republic and to the Jedi she may now be. Investigate we must. And if necessary, stop her, we will.
Anakin's heart burned with anger and frustration. The Council's cold logic, their willingness to turn on Ahsoka, only deepened the divide that had been growing between him and the Jedi. He felt betrayed, not just on Ahsoka's behalf, but for himself as well. The order he had dedicated his life to was failing once again, willing to discard one of their own at the first sign of trouble. As the meeting ended, Anakin stormed out, his mind racing with conflicting emotions. He knew the Council was wrong about Ahsoka, but he also knew that their actions would force her further into the darkness. He could feel the distance growing between him and the Jedi, and with it, a growing resentment that he could no longer ignore. The seeds of distrust that Palpatine had carefully planted were beginning to bear fruit. Anakin's loyalty to the Jedi was crumbling, his faith in the Order eroding with each passing day, and as for Ahsoka, Anakin's inability to save her from this path gnawed at his soul, fueling the anger that Palpatine would one day use to turn him completely. The Jedi Council received intelligence about a critical separatist stronghold, a key location that the Republic could not afford to lose. The separatists had been seen there, and alongside them was a figure who, to the Council's concern, could only be Ahsoka Tano. The importance of the mission was clear. This stronghold had to be taken, and if Ahsoka was indeed there, the threat had to be neutralized. The Council, fearing that Anakin's emotions would cloud his judgment, decided to withhold this information from him. Instead, they entrusted the mission to Mace Windu, a Jedi Master known for his strength and resolve. However, Obi-Wan Kenobi, who had always had a deep bond with both Anakin and Ahsoka, couldn't shake the feeling that there was still hope for Ahsoka. He believed that if anyone could reach her and bring her back to the light, it would be Anakin. Trusting his instincts, and unbeknownst to the Council, Obi-Wan approached Anakin privately and told him about the mission.
Anakin, the Council believes this mission is too dangerous for you, but I trust you. Ahsoka is at the stronghold. They plan to confront her. If anyone can bring her back, it's you. But you must be careful. Mace Windu is leading the mission, and he won't hesitate if Ahsoka attacks.
Anakin's heart raced with both fear and determination. He knew he had to be there, to try one last time to save Ahsoka. Without informing anyone, Anakin secretly followed the Republic forces as they prepared for the assault, determined to intervene when the moment was right. Palpatine, always 3 steps ahead, had orchestrated the entire situation. He had placed Ahsoka in a position where she could not win, a battle that was doomed from the start. The droid army she commanded was a mere distraction, a sacrificial pawn in Palpatine's greater game. The battle was meant to fail, ensuring that Ahsoka would face Mace Windu alone. As the battle raged, the Republic forces led by Windu began to overwhelm the droids. Amid the chaos, Windu and Ahsoka found themselves isolated, squaring off against each other in a tense, one-on-one duel. Ahsoka, now fully immersed in the dark side, fought with ferocity, her powers fueled by her anger and bitterness. But Windu, a master of Vapod, a lightsaber form that thrived on the opponent's dark side energy, was a formidable opponent. With each clash, Windu's experience and skill began to overpower Ahsoka's raw but unfocused strength. Meanwhile, Anakin arrived on the battlefield, his heart pounding as he saw Ahsoka and Mace locked in combat. He could see that Ahsoka was losing ground, her attacks becoming more desperate as Windu pressed his advantage. Anakin's mind raced. He had to stop this. He had to save her. Windu, sensing victory, delivered a powerful strike that disarmed Ahsoka, sending her lightsabers clattering to the ground. As he prepared to deliver the final blow, Anakin appeared, his lightsaber ignited, his voice filled with desperation.
Mace, stop! Let her go!
Anakin demanded, stepping between Ahsoka and Windu. Mace, his expression stern and unyielding, shook his head.
Anakin, she's too dangerous. You know what she's become. I can't let her go.
Anakin's eyes darted between Ahsoka and Mace, his mind a storm of conflicting emotions. He had come to save Ahsoka, but now he was faced with a choice he never wanted to make. As they argued, Ahsoka, weakened but not defeated, saw an opportunity. With Mace's attention momentarily diverted, she lunged for her lightsabers, intending to strike Mace down, but Windu, ever vigilant, sensed the attack coming. In a split second, he deflected Ahsoka's strike and instinctively countered with a blow that was meant to end the fight. The attack would have killed Ahsoka, but in that crucial moment, Anakin acted. With a flash of blue, Anakin's lightsaber cut through the air, striking Mace Windu from behind. Windu's eyes widened in shock as he staggered, his lightsaber falling from his grip. He turned to face Anakin, betrayal and pain etched across his face. Anakin stood frozen, his mind reeling from what he had just done. He had struck down a Jedi Master, one of the most revered and respected members of the Council. He had committed the ultimate betrayal, and there was no turning back. The weight of his actions crushed him, but in that moment of despair, he saw Ahsoka, wounded but alive, and with a sickening realization, he understood.
The Jedi, they were wrong. You were right, Ahsoka.
Ahsoka, still in shock from the battle and what she had just witnessed, looked at Anakin with a mixture of disbelief and relief. She had lost everything, but in this twisted moment, she had gained an ally, a powerful one, who now shared her hatred for the Jedi. Anakin, broken and lost, now fully believed in Ahsoka's point of view. The Jedi were evil, and he had chosen his side. Together, they would bring the galaxy the justice it needed, no matter the cost. After the devastating events on the battlefield, Ahsoka and Anakin found themselves alone, away from the prying eyes of the galaxy. Ahsoka knew that this was the moment she needed to reveal everything to Anakin, to show him the truth she had discovered. As they sat in the dimly lit room, the weight of her words pressed down on her, but she knew she had to speak.
Anakin, everything we believed in, everything the Jedi taught us, it's all a lie. The Republic is corrupt, and the Jedi have become its enforcers, blindly supporting a system that's rotting from the inside.
Anakin listened intently, his brow furrowed in confusion.
They want you to believe that they are protectors. But I've seen the truth, and so have you. The Jedi are so focused on their code, on their doctrine, that they've lost sight of what's really happening. They're not protecting the galaxy, they're helping to destroy it.
She paused, gathering her thoughts before delivering the final blow.
And there's more, Anakin. Palpatine. He's the Sith Lord the Jedi have been searching for. He's the one who's been orchestrating everything. The war, the conflict, all of it. But he's not the monster the Jedi make him out to be. He's been trying to expose the corruption in the Republic, to show the galaxy the truth.
Anakin's eyes widened in shock, but Ahsoka continued before he could react.
Palpatine showed me the real problem, Anakin. The Republic is broken, and the Jedi are too blind to see it. He's been trying to save the galaxy, to bring about the change we need. And when he explained it all to me, I realized he's right. The Jedi are the real villains here, not him.
For a moment, Anakin was stunned. The revelation that Palpatine, a man he respected and admired, was the Sith Lord shook him to his core, but as Ahsoka continued to speak, laying out the corruption and decay within the Republic, the pieces began to fall into place. He had seen the flaws in the Jedi, the hypocrisy, and the failures, and now, with Ahsoka's words painting a new picture, it didn't take long for Anakin to accept the truth she was presenting. Determined to act, Anakin sought out Padme, desperate to bring her with him on this new path. When he found her in their private quarters, the weight of everything he had just learned was heavy on his shoulders.
Padme, we need to leave. The Jedi, the Republic, they're the true villains of this war. They've been lying to us, manipulating us. The only way to bring peace to the galaxy is to walk away from all of this.
Anakin, what are you talking about? The Jedi and the Republic. They're fighting to protect the galaxy. How can you say they're the villains?
Anakin felt the frustration rising within him, the same frustration Ahsoka had felt when trying to make him see the truth. But he couldn't tell her everything, especially about Palpatine. He feared it might jeopardize the mission, and he couldn't risk losing her.
I've seen things, Padme. The Jedi, they're not what they seem. And the Republic, it's falling apart. We can't stay here, Padme. We need to leave, to find a new path.
Anakin, you're not making sense. I know things have been hard, but leaving everything behind, running away, that's not the answer.
Anakin's heart sank as he realized that he was losing her, just as he had feared. Without the full truth, his words sounded desperate, and Padme couldn't see what he saw.
I can't go back to the Jedi, Padme, not after what I've done, after what I've learned. But I can't stay here either. I have to show you the truth, to make you see that everything we've believed in is wrong.
Padme's eyes filled with tears as she reached out to him, but Anakin stepped back, his resolve hardening.
Anakin, please, don't do this. We can find another way. We can fix this together.
I have to do this, Padme. I have to fight to bring down the real enemies of the galaxy. When you see what I've seen, you'll understand. You'll join me. But for now, I have to go.
With those final words, Anakin turned and left, leaving Padme standing alone, her heart shattered by the man she loved. She couldn't understand what had driven him to this, but she feared that whatever it was, it had taken him to a place she couldn't follow. Anakin, now cut off from the life he had once cherished, threw himself into his new path. Much like Ahsoka, he began to train in the dark side of the Force, believing that his intentions were just, that he could use this newfound power to bring about the change the galaxy needed. But as he delved deeper into the dark side, he felt the same corruption that had consumed Ahsoka begin to take hold of him. The dark side, seductive and all-consuming, began to warp Anakin's mind, twisting his noble intentions into something darker, more ruthless. He convinced himself that the ends justified the means, that the sacrifices he made were necessary for the greater good. But in reality, he was becoming the very thing he had sworn to destroy, a slave to the darkness, driven by anger, fear, and the desperate need to justify his actions. As Anakin's training continued, the man who had once been a hero of the Republic, a protector of peace and justice, faded away. In his place stood a darker figure, one who believed that the only way to save the galaxy was to control it, to bend it to his will. The corruption of the dark side was complete, and there was no turning back. As the Clone Wars entered its final phase, the galaxy was plunged deeper into chaos. The Republic, once a beacon of hope and stability, was now fighting on multiple fronts, desperately trying to maintain control. But what they didn't realize was that two of their most powerful former allies, Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano, had turned against them, joining the Separatists and embracing the dark side of the Force. Anakin and Ahsoka, now fully corrupted by the dark side, fought side by side against the Republic and the Jedi. No longer bound by the Jedi code or the ideals they once held dear, they became ruthless warriors, their hearts hardened by the darkness they had chosen to embrace. Each battle, each life they took, became easier and easier as they justified their actions in the name of bringing true order and justice to the galaxy. The transformation was complete. Where once there had been a Jedi Knight and a Padawan dedicated to protecting the innocent, there were now two Sith Lords, driven by their twisted sense of purpose. The dark side had consumed them both, warping their minds and souls until the people they once were all but unrecognizable. As the war neared its conclusion, the galaxy was on the brink of collapse. Palpatine, orchestrating events from the shadows, issued Order 66, the command that would lead to the systematic extermination of the Jedi Order. Across the galaxy, clones turned on their Jedi commanders, cutting them down without hesitation. But in the heart of Coruscant, the most important battle was yet to come. Anakin and Ahsoka stormed the Jedi Temple together, leading a contingent of elite clone troopers. The temple, once a sanctuary of peace and knowledge, was now a fortress to be conquered, its defenders unaware of the true threat that approached. As they entered the temple, lightsabers blazing, the two former Jedi cut through the ranks of their old comrades with brutal efficiency. Each strike was delivered with deadly precision, and with each fallen Jedi, their power and resolve grew stronger. They had become everything the Jedi had feared, instruments of destruction, wielding the dark side with a terrifying mastery. The war was over, the Jedi Order had been decimated, the Republic had crumbled, and in its place the Galactic Empire had risen. But for Anakin and Ahsoka, the victory felt hollow. The darkness that had consumed them during the war had taken root deep within their hearts, twisting their desires and corrupting their sense of purpose. What had started as a mission to bring true order and justice to the galaxy had turned into an insatiable hunger for control. Despite the galaxy being under their sway, Anakin and Ahsoka felt that it was not enough. They saw corruption everywhere, threats to their new order lurking in the shadows. The galaxy needed to be molded, shaped according to their vision of peace. A peace that could only be maintained through absolute power, and there was only one obstacle standing in their way: Emperor Palpatine. Anakin and Ahsoka, now Sith Lords in their own right, knew that Palpatine had to be removed. He had been their master, their manipulator, the architect of their fall, but now he was nothing more than a symbol of the very corruption they had sworn to eradicate. If they were to truly bring their version of peace to the galaxy, they would need to seize control for themselves. The confrontation was inevitable. Anakin and Ahsoka, their minds now fully intertwined with the dark side, entered Palpatine's grand throne room, a place of cold grandeur and dark power. Palpatine, ever the puppet master, sensed their approach and knew that the time had come for a final reckoning. The Emperor greeted them with a knowing smile, his voice dripping with sinister charm.
My dear apprentices, you have done well. The galaxy is ours, and together we shall bring about a new era.
But Anakin's eyes, once filled with respect for the man who had guided him, now burned with contempt. The galaxy is broken, Palpatine, and you are a part of that corruption. You've manipulated us, twisted us into what you wanted, but we see clearly now. The only way to ensure true peace is for you to be removed. Ahsoka stood by Anakin's side, her presence just as ominous.
You've outlived your usefulness, Palpatine. Your time is over. We are the future of this empire, and we will bring the peace that you could never achieve.
You believe you can betray me, take what I have built. You are powerful, yes, but you are still my apprentices, and I am the Dark Lord of the Sith.
But Anakin and Ahsoka were undeterred. They had long since surpassed their former master in power, driven by the darkness that now consumed them completely. Without hesitation, the two launched their attack, their lightsabers igniting with a snap hiss that echoed through the chamber. The duel that followed was fierce, the room filled with the crackling energy of the dark side. Palpatine fought with all the cunning and power he possessed, his mastery of the dark side a terrifying force. But Anakin and Ahsoka, now fully embracing their roles as Sith Lords, fought with a single-minded determination. They moved as one, their strikes coordinated, their power amplified by their shared desire for control. Palpatine, for all his strength and experience, began to falter under the relentless assault. He had underestimated the depth of the corruption he had sown in his apprentices, the extent to which they had embraced the dark side. In a final, desperate attempt, he unleashed a torrent of Force lightning, aiming to strike them down where they stood. But Anakin and Ahsoka, their powers fully realized, deflected the attack, the energy dissipating harmlessly against their combined strength. With a final, decisive strike, Anakin drove his lightsaber through Palpatine's chest, the Emperor's eyes widening in shock as his life force was snuffed out. The throne room fell silent, the body of the once mighty Emperor crumpling to the floor. Anakin and Ahsoka stood over him, their breathing heavy, their hearts pounding with the thrill of victory. They had done it. They had seized control of the galaxy. The Empire was now theirs, and with it, the power to enforce their vision of peace. With the galaxy firmly under their control, Anakin and Ahsoka ascended to their thrones as Emperor and Empress of the newly formed Galactic Empire. Their rule was absolute, and they believed they had finally achieved the peace they had sought, albeit through the iron grip of the dark side. But for Anakin, there was still one final piece of his old life that he longed to reclaim: Padme. Confident in the power he now wielded, Anakin set out to find Padme, determined to show her what he had accomplished. In his mind, he had ended the war, brought order to the galaxy, and ensured a lasting peace. Surely, once Padme saw what he had achieved, she would understand and join him in ruling this new era. But when Anakin returned to their quarters on Coruscant, he found them empty. Padme was gone. He searched every corner of the palace, sent his agents across the galaxy, but there was no sign of her. She had disappeared without a trace. The absence of Padme struck Anakin harder than any battle he had fought. She was the reason he had fought so hard, the one person he had hoped to share his new empire with. But now, in the moment of his greatest triumph, she was nowhere to be found. Ahsoka, sensing Anakin's turmoil, approached him.
Anakin, she's gone. We have to move forward. The galaxy is ours now, and we can't let anything or anyone distract us from our mission.
She was supposed to be here, Ahsoka. She was supposed to see what we've built, to be part of it. Without her, none of this feels right.
Unbeknownst to Anakin, Padme had left Coruscant well before the final days of the war, disappearing into the far reaches of the galaxy. She had seen the changes in Anakin, sensed the darkness that had taken hold of him, and knew that she could not stay by his side. Fearing for her life and the future of her unborn children, she had gone into hiding, determined to protect them from the shadow that had consumed their father. In a secluded, peaceful world far from the reach of the Empire, Padme lived quietly, raising her children, the twins who would one day become the galaxy's new hope.